Hi, I'm James E. to the Eid Foundation. Welcome to episode 60 of the Chess Files. The answers are out there. Just a word about the Eid Foundation. The Eid Foundation is here to build communities through chess. It doesn't matter what country you're from. It doesn't matter what language you speak. If you play chess, you're part of a chess community. And if you're part of a community, you're never alone. If you have access to the internet, you can play anyone, anywhere, anytime. But if you're not capable of getting onto the internet and you don't have the resources to start a chess community wherever you are, the E Foundation can help you. Contact us. You can see the website scrolling across the bottom of your screen, and we'll help you get started. That's the whole point. But today, what's the question that we want to answer? The question is, what's it like to be a chief judge for the Chess Journalists of America Awards? It sounds like it's a pretty cool thing. Oh my goodness, the Eid Foundation got an award. Oh, it's the best overall website, small organization, award from the Chess Journalists. So I thought I would bring on the president of the Chess Journalists, Joshua Anderson. Hello, Joshua.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing terrific. How are you?
Oh, doing fine, thank you.
Okay, so the chess journalist. What does it mean to be a chess journalist? Let's start with that.
Well, so basically, the organization was founded in the 1970s. I think when Bobby Fischer was, of course, big, and so they wanted to. A lot of states at the time had organizations that were very active, and so a lot of the states got together along with U.S. Chess and said, "Well, we want to promote chess writing. We want to promote chess diagrams, and we want to promote chess in general. How do we go about doing this?" And we also, of course, back in the early 70s, there was an interest in having mainstream publications, right? I mean, the New York Times was always having articles on chess, and
Right.
chess was on ABC News and everything else, right? When
Yeah,
Fischer wins the World
I
Championship.
remember.
So there's a lot of interest in chess journalism that springs up in the early 1970s and how to do things. And is there a good way to do them? What are some of the mistakes that people make? And then a lot of it at the beginning was trying to have states help other states, right? Where you'd have states
Yes.
that had magazines that were really quite nice, and other states that were interested in doing that but could barely put something together, and then other states that just weren't interested at all. But there was a lot more effort back in the 70s, I think, to sort of help the different state organizations with trying to put out a magazine and such. You can find articles if you go back to the early copies that are much more of a how-to kind of thing, like how do I put these 4 articles together to make a layout, and then how do I get that layout into actual print,
Right.
right? Very different than the sort of things that we do these days on the. I mean, I guess in theory it's the same, but in practice, right, all the mechanics are very different.
Of course,
So
because now we're in an online world, and the internet didn't exist back in the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, heck, they didn't really have the computer programming stuff. I mean, they have in the early 80s, you'll see a few programs that come or a few articles that come out in the journal talking about different types of programs and how you can do word processing on your computer at home
Ooh.
and how amazing this is and so forth. So, I mean, clearly there's been quite a bit of change in chess journalism and in journalism in general, I'm sure, since the 70s. So, but
In the
that's
70s.
how we came about.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thanks for the history. I bet just creating diagrams was an issue.
I'm sure it was. I don't really know how they did it back in the 70s,
Yeah,
though I've seen Jack Collins wrote a book, My Seven Chess Prodigies,
yeah.
and I've seen his rough drafts. They're at the Indiana University has his papers. And if you go into the boxes of his papers, you can see some of the old like drawings that they did by hand and all this sort of stuff that I couldn't imagine
Yeah.
trying to do these days.
There
Of course, very different for us.
there was a great magazine in those days called the California Chess Reporter. And I know that my friend Bob Berger has since passed away, but he has told me that about Guthrie McLean, who is a very big influence on chess in California during the 60s and 70s and those days in publishing, he had his own printing press. So they created diagrams and lined them up and actually were able to print them. And the diagrams are as beautiful as anything I've seen out there now. So, but not everyone had their own printing press.
No, definitely not. Definitely something that they were very fortunate to have and was not something so easily accessible. Of course, I guess you were in Northern California, so you had a pretty large group, right? If you're, Vermont, for instance, they
Yes.
probably have, a membership of 100 people. I mean, even, in the 1970s, it was going to be very small. So you had a little bit more luxury there. I suspect he had it than they do in some of the smaller states.
Yeah, I've been out here in Northern California since 1979, but I
Oh,
lived on the border when I grew up of Vermont.
oh,
So
okay.
I played in the 8th Vermont State Championship.
Oh, wow, alright, I didn't realize
I
I knew you had
I
spent some
tied
time
for
in New
first.
England, but I didn't realize
Yeah, yeah, I
you
tied
went
for
that far
first
back.
with John Curto, a
Oh,
name that you know well.
yes, yes, I do.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of playing John once, and I also, he played Robert Byrne on a couple of occasions, and so we've corresponded about that, and John did some interviews for us in our oral history work for the chess journalism.
Well, we'll come
And
back
we
to the
can
oral history, but
Yeah, and
doesn't Robert Byrne deserve a book?
yes, he does, and funny you mention that. Since I'm working on his book, we're getting closer all the time, but we're sort of at this stage where it feels like every little thing just takes an extra day or two for whatever reason. So we're
Right.
getting there and we're getting close, but it's actually on both brothers.
Oh,
And so part of the situation with Donald is that Donald tends to get sort of the short shrift, right? Of course, he passes away much earlier.
of course.
Most people at this point don't remember him. Like, I mean, I talked to lots of people who remember Bob. I mean, mostly when Bob was older, but people who
Sure.
remember Bob.
Right.
There aren't that many people who remember Donald very much anymore.
Right.
And so you sort of see that there and so forth. But we really try to make sure that Donald gets quite a bit of coverage. Of course, he was the stronger player in the 1950s. Right? If you look at like the
Often
19
overlooked. Yes.
Yes, and if you look at like the 54 and 55 matches with the Soviet Union, he played on a higher board.
Yeah.
And he was the first person to win, of the two brothers, he was the first to win the US Open, which he did in 53, and things like that. So I mean, he was definitely the stronger of the two players at that stage. And Bob was mostly teaching philosophy and very much interested in becoming a professor and those sort of things. So he wasn't doing as much of that in the 50s. So we do get to cover Don a lot more there, and such. But yeah, in the end, it ends up being a book that's, I mean, Bob lived twice as long, so
Yes.
naturally you're going to get a lot more coverage
And
of what he did.
his column, I go back, I started playing competitive chess in 1972, and his column in the New York Times was a resource that that I just cherished, and I think many people did. So
Yeah, there will be several sections of the book talking about that, and of course that changed quite a bit too from the
yes,
1970s when he took over that column from
right.
Horowitz to 2006 when he retired. Right, there's quite a bit of change that goes on,
Oh, sure.
quite a bit of change that goes on there. So that will be covered in some depth as well, though it's a little more about his games and his playing and so
Yeah.
forth. But there's
Well, back
quite a bit
to the
on that.
chess journalist. Journalist, wanting to understand what it means to be a just journalist. Are interviews part of that? Is
Yeah,
part of journalism?
we largely kind of view it as everything and anything that helps to spread chess, the word, activities and chess activities, whether it's tournaments or journalism or interviews or tournament reports or even things like there's been a lot of YouTube stuff with instruction and that kind of thing that we even include in what we're doing. We've taken a very broad sort of definition, sort of viewing journalism as an attempt to convey chess ideas or chess knowledge from one place to another. And so therefore it's a very wide opening sort of thing. And so we have about 55 categories that we've entered in every year.
55 categories.
Yeah, and every year it changes a little bit, gets a little tweaked here and there.
Yeah.
So there'll be some changes, I'm sure, for next year, but we keep largely the same categories. And then what we've had to do was really add a lot of stuff over the years due to YouTube and Instagram and all these sort of different things coming along,
Transition to
websites and so
online
forth.
journalism.
Yeah, and so when I started, I think there were 24 or 25 categories, and they had sort of been very oddly added over the years. So they were just sort of put any old place. And then I kind of regrouped them the second year and actually got rid of a couple. And we were at about 22, I think, and now I think we're at 55 because back then we didn't have anything for computer stuff. I think we had one computer category. It was a best website by U.S. chess affiliate, and that was basically right. It's going to be a state, some state's website was going to win that, and that was the only thing we had. We had no YouTube videos. We had no videos of any sort. Actually, come to think of it, that was pretty much it. In fact, I think it was Jennifer Shahadi submitted it was for best humor, and it was a video that she did or she had done. I don't know that she was actually in it, but I couldn't accept it because I couldn't figure out how the judges could judge that versus 4 or 5 written pieces. And so in the end, we ended up not accepting it and she was very understanding about it and everything. But then we kind of tweaked the category so that we could include more things in the following years.
Right.
But for that year, we didn't let it in. So now chess humor is different.
If you didn't allow online interviews to be judged, I never would have gotten this one.
Oh, there you go. Yep, that's true. You would not have gotten that one from George Marajani.
I want to point out, I got 2 of these, and they're honorable mentions. So my bone to pick with you, Joshua, does 2 honorable mentions mean I won? Or
no, so in fact, let's do this here. I'm going to pull this up. Let me figure out how to share screens here.
Sure.
I am going to share screen. Oops, down here at the bottom, right? There's this button. Share screen. Okay, so sharing screens versus 2 monitors. I don't have that, but all right. So we're going to go ahead. We're just going to share the entire screen here. Okay. Okay, so you should be looking at my screen. You should now be looking at a really big Excel file that looks funny because it's blue. Is that correct?
I see a blue screen.
Okay, so this is our big Excel board of everything that's entered.
Look at all those categories.
Goes 300 and I'm going to speed this up a little. It goes down to 317. Now that includes the titles, right? So there weren't 300 entries this year, but there were over 250. And then this board does not have like who judged the material, right? Because if you enter as a judge, like we give a list of who all is a judge, but we don't say who judges what categories.
Right.
So this has had the judges removed, right? Like you can't see their names or anything. But there are judges. We had all the way out to, well, here's the end. Here's the totals. So the BH. So you're looking at like 60 judges. And so you were best interview, right? And you're online. So you're going to be down here a bit. I don't have everything memorized exactly, but I have a pretty good sense of where most things are.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it looks okay. Yep. So here we are. So this was a very tight category, right? So the way in which this works is that 5 judges are sent the materials. Well, in this case, you get to go online and you can click online and get them there. But the 5 judges then submit their scores. And again, that was one of them. There's another judge here, another judge here. You get the idea. So then you get them totaled, right? So we total them up. And so if you're within, so the obviously the highest number is the winner. And in this case, there was a tie, and that happens sometimes.
Sure.
We don't fight ties because, I mean, for one thing, it's chess, right? There are a lot of ties in chess.
Yeah.
But for another, it's not a good practical solution. So you get, these are the 2 winners. And if you're within 80% of whatever the winner total is, you get an honorable mention. So 12
I did
out
not
of
understand
15
that. Thank you.
Is 80%, and then 13. I don't know what the number, like I don't know the math offhand. It's probably like 87%. But in any case, clearly, if 12 makes it, then 13 is going to make it, right?
Right.
Whereas, like here, this was the best feature article. This was a piece that had 23. So even though this piece had 15, it doesn't get an honorable mention because 15 is not anywhere near 20. 80% of 23. It's more like 70 or 60 something percent. So
I understand. Now
that's how we do the different.
That's very informative, and you hide the judges' names so that I can't go and complain to them.
Right, exactly. So that you can't go and complain to the judges or say, take it out on them next year.
Yeah,
you're judging their work. So right, there are a lot of people who judge for us who also submit things.
Yeah.
So obviously, you cannot judge a category that you're submitting in.
And the
And in
chief
fact,
judge has to be the guy that just says you can't judge that category.
right, and in fact, we make a point, like, if you so we have a lot of people who write for US Chess. Obviously, US Chess for a large organization, so there's a lot of people who write for them, and let's say they write in print, right? They write in a column for Chess Life, for instance. I'm
Sure.
just as an example. Then we try not to have them judge the anything that's obviously in the magazine, but then even that next step over, and try not to have them judge articles that are in their that are on uschess.org, right? So that way they're completely separated from the magazine and from the organization. So we try to make that separation. Now, the US Chess is really the only people who do that, because like ACM, American Chess Magazine, doesn't have an online component. So they can judge. I mean, they do a lot of people who write for ACM also judge for us, just like for US Chess.
Sure.
And they can judge a lot more categories because they don't have an online component. So they do a lot more online stuff, but we don't let them judge the print stuff.
Well, I'm going to do a shout out to John Hartman now, because
Okay.
the Chess Life was the winner this year, and over ACM,
Yes.
and
yes, it was.
and that was really an important achievement for John. He really wanted to do that because didn't ACM win it last year? I
They had
think.
won the last couple, I think. I'd have
Yeah.
to go. I mean, I have all the records going back, but I don't have them all memorized, so I'd have to go back and
Yeah.
check.
I can understand all these categories and all these submissions. It would be hard to commit to memory, so that's totally understandable. I want to do a full disclaimer here that I was president of the CJA. Excuse me. Back in the day. Is this more comfortable or is this more comfortable?
Either one's fine with me. I think this is probably a little more comfortable,
I think so.
but you
Okay.
may find that the people who have to look at my face up close may be going, "No, this is not good. We do not like this. We prefer the far away."
That's okay,
view."
Joshua. I feel the same way. I always have that in the back of my mind. Don't want to get too close. But I was president of the Chess Journalists of America back in 1995, and I was chief judge. And believe me, there are more categories and more submissions now than there were then. And I thought that was a very difficult job then. And I also thought that, excuse me, I'll get rid of this. I thought that getting judges was part of the harder part of the job.
It has
And
been.
you've done a
When I
terrific
first
job.
started, I'm sorry, say that again.
I said getting judges was the hardest part of the job, and you've done a terrific job of getting judges.
Thank you.
So many categories and so many judges need to be, and you have to control for they can't be judging a category. So it's a big job that you're doing, Josh.
Yes, it is. It ends up basically, I put everything I'm doing for that month on hold. I mean, I might do a few small things, but like the burn book, which I'm writing and working on getting closer, I basically ended up having to put that on hold for a month because we got stuff starting. There technically entries go through about June 20th, can come in until about June 20th. But of course, everybody submits stuff on June 18th, June 19th, June 20th. So it makes it like basically from then on until the beginning of August, it's a full-time situation, and it's nice to do, and I'm happy to do it, and I'm honored to do it. But by the same token, we've been talking about different ways to sort of make it a more reasonable and workable situation. Some of the things that we can do to keep getting a lot of entries, but kind of streamline the process of getting them out to the judges, which we've done by adding them to the website. I used to have to send emails linking everything, right? Or sending all these attachments and everything. Whereas now we just say, go to the website and here you go, right? And here's your category.
Speaking of your website, I'm gonna oops, sorry, I did the wrong one.
Okay.
Let's see.
You want me to share it?
Oh gosh, where did I put that? I put a banner. Okay, I put it on as a banner.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Oh, cool. Yes, there it is. Except that's 2021. We're into 2022, or did we make an error?
No, I think I copied it from what I got off the website, but it'll serve to get you to the website, chessjournalism.org, where you can see all the current winners. And so I encourage people to check out the website, chessjournalism.org.
Yeah.
And I picked up the 2021 winners, and that's a matter of confusion for me because like the articles that I submitted were done in 21, and but I got a 22 award.
So
So
we have
tell
a
me a
half,
little bit about that.
yeah, so we have a half year split, right? So basically our we do not have a calendar year set up
Right.
because of course we do our meeting at the US Open. If you did a calendar year setup, it wouldn't work all that smoothly. So we don't
The
do a
U.S. Open is
calendar.
in August every year.
Right. It's in
Right.
August every year. And so we trying to share my screen here and see. But so
Oh,
yeah, so we
let me
do
do that. Let me add that.
this is the award winners for 2022. And so you can go through and sort of scroll down through everything. And I can talk about these more in a second. But to answer your question, because we're on our meetings in August, we work it basically that the calendar year is our year basically goes from June 1st of, in this case, 2022 to May 31st of 2023. And people can submit stuff. We'll open up for submissions for the judging for the 2023 awards. We'll open up in May of 23 and go through June 15th or June 19th. The cutoff will change slightly. I try to make it a Saturday so that like state organizations and organizations that are really pressed for time can at least have that Saturday or Sunday, that weekend, where they can focus on this and not have to try to do it on a random Wednesday kind of thing.
Right.
But so anyway, so the calendar will basically go through June 15th of 2023. Then I'll have a week or two to submit, like to take all the submissions and put them up here in an awards entry list, right?
Right.
And you can see here's the award entry list. And you can click on all of these and you'll get the article or the YouTube video or whatever it is that you're going to. There's a few minor adjustments. For instance, like ACM, American Chess Magazine, for obvious reasons, does not want us to put their whole magazine up for a year, right? Give it away for free. They
Right.
just, so there are a few things like that pop up. But for the most part, I'd say 98% of what is submitted, you can see. You can go to that category and you can click on whatever the case is, and you can and you can see that category, that entry. So I take
That's,
about 2 weeks to do that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to compliment your website.
Oh,
It's really changed over the years, and there's so much information on it now compared to, I can remember back in 1995 coding it in HTML because we didn't have all of these little programs that helped you build websites. And there's no way I could have done what's being done today. And I'm just complimenting your organization on the quality of the website and the access to information. It's amazing.
thank you. I'm glad that it's easier for people to get access to. For a long time, we didn't do this until about 2 years ago, where we started putting up the links for the articles. We would list what came in, but you couldn't see it or anything unless you happened to have access to whatever it was, whatever
The
the entry
magazine it
was.
appeared in, or yeah.
Yeah. So this is a really nice change for us, and I think a lot of people have enjoyed going and seeing what is entered in various categories and various columns and things like that. So
Yes.
we'll keep doing that. It is a time-consuming thing, right?
Yes.
So probably next year, we have a new Grayson Rohrer is our new webmaster. He
Shout
does
out to
his
Grayson.
Grandmasters to Be, I think is his website, and it's a similar style. So he's pretty comfortable with this. So hopefully we'll be able to be a little bit faster next year, and a little bit less on me will be good too. Right, if we can do that, because I'm not real good at this part of it. I would do it, and then somebody would have to come along and fix what I did. And so
I
there,
understand that now. That's me now.
yeah. So
I got to call in to somebody to help me sort out something I'm doing on my website too. So I messed it up, and I called someone to help me fix it.
yep, that's if I do it, then we just have to have an extra person come in to fix it, right? So then what we didn't do this year, we didn't number these, right? And so one of the things that happened was I would send, so I pick the 5 judges, whoever those 5 judges are going to be. And again, we kind of take things in like, can they judge for US chess? Should they be avoided by US chess? Whatever, conflicts of interest, things like that. There are people who have written me and said to me, don't let me judge X, Y, or Z, or, I'm good friends with person who's going to submit here, so I can't judge that. Stuff like that happens. So, like, I take into account any of those sort of things. And then I'll send it to the 5 judges. Well, most of the time it works pretty well, but we've had a situation this year because we had so many where, like, I'd send best cartoon and they would do best cartoon has 3 entries, and that's great, but they would do best cartoon online. Or this was the online, and they would do best cartoon in print. So we had a little bit of confusion there. We had to straighten some things out. So next year we're going to number these. So that way I can say, category 17, best cartoon, and then they can match it much more accurately, and everything should be fine. So we're always trying to find ways to improve the system. There's always little quirks and things that need to be adjusted and such. But that's sort of one of the things that we'll do for next year.
Excellent.
But yeah, so that was a situation where they're doing that, and so then obviously I would just, since they weren't supposed to judge best humor, I'd say to them, oh well, that's very nice, but please judge this one, or I'd send them the actual link specifically so that could clear up the matter if there was some confusion there. So we always try to do that.
The chief judge job, right?
Yeah, basically I'm looking to, I can stop sharing. I'm looking to make things as easy as possible for the judges, because I know that the judges have donated a lot of time and energy. Some of them are fairly limited. They may just judge 1 or 2 categories. Others judge 18 or 20. It's one of those things where certain people have a very wide skill set, right? So they're very good at a wide variety of things in chess, maybe history and analysis and feature articles and things like that. And then there might be someone, usually it's in the arts, who's particularly interested in, like, photography and has a good photography background or has been involved in chess photography over the years, but maybe doesn't do any writing in chess or isn't a very strong chess player, and so they're not comfortable in certain other areas. So they would just do the art categories or something like that. So we do have a few of those. And we do have a few people, like Dan Lucas is always very helpful, but there's so many things he's not allowed to do.
Right.
For anybody who doesn't know, he's head of communications for US Chess. And so obviously he's connected to so many of these things.
And former editor of Chess Life, and he's had so many hats. He's also been a past president of the CJA.
Yes.
So yeah, and but he would be capable of judging so much. He's just not. It wouldn't be fair to other people.
Right. Exactly. It wouldn't be fair to ask him to do it, and it wouldn't be fair for the judges or for the people being judged either. Right. It's not fair.
Shout out to Dan Lucas. You're doing a great job.
Yeah. So there we go. Next shout to Dan Lucas. But yeah, and so that's sort of, a lot of times it's a matter of conflict of interest is usually where we have our trickiest, the trickiest time. So we had a category this year, best historical article, and 5 of the people I usually use for judging that sort of article were in that category. So needless to say, I had to go elsewhere for the judging of that category, which does mean I get judges who are perhaps slightly less experienced, but it's the only practical thing to do.
I agree.
Because I can't have,
right.
You can't have them judging their own work for obvious reasons. And so therefore that's the situation there. So that does happen occasionally.
How long have you been the chief judge?
It seems like forever. When I got the job, so Al Lawrence contacted me. We did not own this house, and we've been here now 10 years, 9 or 10 years. So it was back at least 10 years ago. And Al Lawrence contacted me, and I had never met Al, and I didn't know Al at all. And he said, we're looking for a chief judge for the CJA. And I knew what the CJA was, but I hadn't really been actively involved, and it was kind of quieter. It's gone through periods where it was more active and where it's been less active as an organization, and it was sort of in one of its less active phases. And so I contacted, or Dan Heisman had been asked by Al Lawrence, and Dan had said, no, I did this once before, I ain't doing this again. So they sent it to me. He suggested me, and so Al Lawrence contacted me, and I had not ever been involved in it, but I said, I could do the background research and see what had been done previously and so forth. And he said, so think if you're interested. And I did. And I said, and Al said, well, how would you run things? What would you do? And so we talked about it. he and I probably had a couple of good hour-long conversations because he didn't want to just say, "Here, go do this," right? He
Yes.
wanted to know,
Right.
what my thinking was and so forth, and make sure I had some sense. He didn't know me, but he had his recommendation from Dan Heisman, who was very good and is very well
Yeah. Shout
known
out
and
to
so
Dan
forth.
Heisman.
So, yep. So therefore, and Dan and I have worked together for many years. I'm the tournament director for the Holly Heisman Fund
Oh,
that he
yes.
does for his wife. His wife had breast cancer and passed away about 25 years ago now. And about 20 years ago now, he started a tournament that they do every year for her. And I took over when Ira Lee Riddle, who was also president of the
He
Chess
was,
Journalists of
yes.
America.
Yes, I remember.
Ira passed
Yes.
away unexpectedly, right? He had a massive heart attack getting to Paris, as I understand the story. He had gone on a cruise and whether just getting there or what the situation was, I'm not exactly sure. But in any case, he passed away. And so I had come on and helped with that and still help with that. That's a big activity for us around this area.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they talked with me about it. We sort of set up this plan. Everything was good. And then I realized that I wanted to do everything electronically. I was like, I don't want to cut out articles and like have people send me paper all over the place and all of this chaos. And so I was just like, okay, so my first ruling, we're going to do everything electronically. And for the most part, everyone was
21st
like, hey,
century. Yes.
yeah, and for the most part, everybody was really on top of that. Mark Taylor proposed several ideas of why that might not work, but we managed to make it work in the end.
Uh-huh.
And Mark's, for those of you who don't know, Mark's a professor of literature at I think it's Barry University, but
Shout out to Mark
he's
Taylor.
a very serious scholar and a very noted and educated, and shall we say, lover of paper. Right, very much interested in books and magazines being books and magazines, right, not being PDFs and not being those sorts of things. So
Yeah, we're Facebook friends. I don't know if we've ever met in person, but yeah, and he's a good contributor. But I would be remorse if I didn't do a shout out to Al Lawrence. Now, as a disclaimer, Al Lawrence and I go way back and we're friends. And you'll have to tell me how many Chess Journalists of the Year awards has Al won?
I was won 3.
3.
He won 2 when I was doing things, and then he won 1 previously.
Okay.
Before I was around, there was, I mean, obviously they had done them since the 80s. A woman, Warren, I'm blanking her name. You probably remember.
Helen Warren.
Yes, Helen Warren was very active in doing the awards. It's sort of the mother of the awards in some sense, right? I
Yes.
mean, they had sort of been around before her, but she really did a lot to kind of expand them and push them on and so forth. And that was in the late 80s, 90s, a little bit. I think she's still alive, and from what I heard. Um,
I
and,
can neither
and
confirm nor deny, but she was very active postal chess, the chess journalist, and she was a board member of the U.S. Chess at some point. And her husband, Jim, was also a big help in many ways. And I think he has won an award in for his service as well. So the Warrens, I'll never forget them.
Okay, yeah, and they were a little before my time. I know the names and I've seen their names in print and so forth quite a few times, but I never had the pleasure of meeting them. Unlike they sort of remind me of the Liebermans, right? Myron and
Yes.
Rachel,
Who
who
just
only recently passed. Yeah.
recently passed. And so it was so difficult to see their names at this U.S. Open, which just happened recently in Palm Springs, and not to see them there. It's the first U.S. Open I've ever attended where they weren't there.
It was the first Open I've ever attended when they weren't there either. Now I haven't attended nearly as many, but yeah, I was always used to seeing them, and they had their hats, and they would sort of be together. They were always together.
Yeah.
They kind of always did their committee work together and so
Yes.
forth. So
Yeah.
whenever I would send judging, I would always send it to the two of them. Like the two of them kind of conferred or worked as a unit and did their
Yeah.
judging together and so forth. And they were very upfront about that was how they were going to do it, and that's what they did. And
They brought 4 eyes to everything.
yes, they did. So that was the situation. Yeah. So that was but yes, they were very nice, and I didn't know them well because they were sort of retiring and doing much less when I came along, but they were part of the group when I first came in that agreed to help me with the awards, not knowing me from Adam and not knowing anything, but being willing to try judging our scoring method and doing our judging and everything like that.
Tireless volunteers. I was on the board back from 1996 to 1999, the board of the U.S. Chess with Rachel, and Myron was always there, and their service to the organization just can't be underestimated. But just again, just wherever there was chess, they were pitching in. So
Yeah, and Pete Tamburo also set me up with a lot of judges that first
shout out
year.
to Peter. Yeah,
And so, and we have a lot of judges who routinely come back. We're very fortunate that we've been able to sort of grow. I mean, we get some judges who try it for a year and really don't like it, and then they kind of go about their way.
yeah.
But we've had a lot of judges who have come in and stuck around and stayed with us for a good number of years. Sometimes, saying, look, this summer is really busy. I can only judge 1 or 2 categories.
Right.
Other times they're like, oh, my summer is pretty free, or I'm not doing X this year. Why don't you, send me a few more categories and I'll be happy to help out.
And
So
if Pete Tamburo sees this, he would kill us if we forgot to mention Jerry Hankin. Also, probably before your time.
yes,
But
yes,
he was a chess journalist. He used to write the Hankin's Corner in the U.S. Open bulletins, and a good writer, often in Chess Life, and a big part of the chess journalists of America's history.
yes, he was very active in the 70s and 80s, as I understand it. And then I guess he sort of became less active in the 90s as he got older and so forth. So, but yeah, he in his first U.S. Open was the one Bobby Fischer won in '57. And he apparently liked to tell everybody this story. So
Yes.
I've never met the man, and I don't know a lot of his stories for him. So I always help him with this promotion, right? I always like to mention this is the story I know of Jerry Hankin.
Yeah, and
Involvement there.
and he always would. No conversation was complete unless he mentioned how many consecutive U.S. Opens he had played in. But he was a master, an original life master. So he was Southern California. So Southern California and Northern California sometimes are like this. But the Dodgers and there's Giants and there's
Sure.
all of that kind of stuff is factored in. But so it's just good to mention that these names to remember the history of the organization. It does go back 50 years.
Yeah, and I've tried to work in some judges when we can. People like Stephen Dan, right, who was very active in the '70s.
Yes.
Has routinely judged
Shout
a
out to
column
Stephen
or
Dan.
two, not usually a whole. Is not real interested in judging a whole lot.
Right.
Certainly not real comfortable with any kind of like YouTube things or anything like crazy
Right.
like that. But with the sort of traditional sort of things, he's often helped us judge. Didn't this year, but often has. So people like that, we often try to get to do some judging for us. So it's
Yeah.
kind of
Change the scroll to a YouTube channel just for Steve and Dan. But yeah, I'm just a tip of the hat to you for your dedicated service over many years, and I think we have a slightly better appreciation for what you do, the amount of work and the amount of energy, the amount of time that it takes to do the job that you have been doing for so long. So I just want to say congratulations, tip of the hat, and
Thank you.
have really been an inspiration. Getting the judges and people think that it's fair, and I think that's the best compliment you can be paid.
Yeah, I have to say, I had several people this year who did not win awards, and I have in previous years. But whenever people who don't win awards come up to me and compliment the process and compliment the event, I'm always very proud and very happy. I mean, it's easy to compliment it when you win awards, right? Hey,
Yes,
that
good
makes me feel
job.
good. It must be good, right? I won the award.
Right.
But even when especially when people don't win an award and then come up and say, I appreciate your work and I like the process, and I think we do everything well, and okay, I didn't win this year, but I've won in the past, or maybe I'll win next year, kind of thing, or whatever the case is.
I'm sick of the honorable mentions, man. Give me a winner.
Well, you've been close on
I'm
several
not
occasions, but you'll get there eventually, right? I think you had picked up 1 or 2 last year, I think, as well.
Well, I'll submit this one and this interview, and you can't judge it.
Well, yeah, I try never to judge anything because people send me the scores, and so part of the
Right.
tricky part that we've had trouble with as far as coming up with a solution to make this an easier process is that we can't just put up like a Google Docs board and say, fill it in with your scores. because we don't want, if you see that 3 other people in your category scored this a 5 and you were going to score it a 2, all of a sudden there's a lot
Right.
of, well, should I score it a 5, or what did I see that they didn't, or what's
Right.
going on, or, oh, I don't really like him very much, I'm going to give it a 1 so it's less apt to get a score, or I'm going to,
Yeah.
push this up a little bit so it can get an honorable mention, or, it doesn't work well if everybody can see the scores.
Yeah, and
And
it should be merit based and not personality based, and I think that's
right,
difficult to
exactly. And
accomplish
so
in
yeah, so we have
doing a
a
good
lot
job.
of questions about how to best do that, where we can come up with a good way to make the scoring, so I don't have to process 5 emails for 55, it's like 300 emails, not related to questions, not related to anything else, just 300 emails worth of scores. And so it'd be nice to find a way to streamline that a bit, right? Where it wasn't didn't take nearly as much time.
Right.
And we haven't quite come up with that yet, right? We're working on it, and certainly if anybody who watches this has some ideas, by all means, reach out to me and let me know. But we're definitely looking to streamline the process a little bit, and of course, because we do want to keep expanding the award, right, and having more people enter, and having more groups like chess.com get more involved, or have World Chess Hall of Fame send us like 10 entries this past year, but
Right.
it'd be nice to have 15 entries from the next year, right?
Right.
So be nice to have all these things. It does make it bigger, and it makes the project even more time consuming.
So
So
how can we contact you? We can go to the chessjournalism.org website. You are on. Do you have a Facebook page, Chess Journalism?
there's a Facebook page for the chess journalists. You can just email me. I'm usually very upfront about, guess, my email is joshuamiltonanderson@gmail.com. And people can just email me directly if they want. We do have a chess journalist web or page, but my email I look at like 1,000 times a day, sadly. So it's like the easiest, quickest way to, get something to me and so forth, right? Is to just
Well,
sort of do it that
when
way.
you're writing and you don't know what to say next, and then you check your email.
Yeah, it's either check my email or check the fridge,
Yeah.
and neither one of these is particularly helpful.
Right.
But at least checking my email doesn't add any pounds, which is a nice perk.
That's good. That's
Right, but
true.
as I'm fond of joking, I could have never found an adjective or an adverb in the fridge, but I keep looking there anyway for them. So sadly, it doesn't quite work that way. But I do tend to like to do that. Yeah, it tends to be. It can be a lot of late nights when you have these rushed periods. It can lead to a lot of late nights, which can lead to a lot of not necessarily making the healthiest choices as far as eating or getting enough
Of
sleep
course.
or any of those sort of things. So you always try to, you try to have a sense of humor about it, but you also try to take it seriously enough to say, hey, we'd like to try to, streamline things a little bit to make it easier, where we're not in such a position to make, sort of choices like that.
Well, there's another category for you: the best streamlining.
There we go.
Well,
Right.
Joshua, I'm running up to the end of the show, but I want to congratulate you on the work that you've done, and I hope that more people shake your hand when they see you and compliment you on the good work. In 1995, I got criticized for mixing best chess art using books and magazines, and somebody was very upset. So I know it can be a thankless job. So when you see Joshua, give him a shout out and thank you. Um, Good job, Joshua. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Great talking to you. I enjoyed the programs. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you. Okay, you're going to go backstage now, and I'm going to
All
wrap
right.
up. All right, that was Joshua Anderson, president of the Chess Journalists of America, the chief judge of the Chess Journalists Awards. And if you've never gotten a Chess Journalist Award, well, I feel for you because the foundation has. Ha ha ha. Oh, sorry. That was not good of me. Anyways, the foundation is dedicated to building communities through chess. And we ask you to donate, to go to our website. And of course, I'm not there yet, but just if you can, go to the efoundation.org. We're a 501c3 charity, and your donations help us to help them. And there are no administrative costs. I absorb those. So every dollar that you give to the Foundation will directly to them. So I want to thank you all for watching episode 60. Wow, I'm up to 60 episodes of the Chess Files. The answers are out there.